I love variations in music, in art, in cinema. So this film, its whole structure.
Jim Jarmusch once said something that stuck with a lot of filmmakers. Nothing is original.
To film school and was able to go there for a few years and started making films.
Steal from anywhere that resonates with inspiration or fuels your imagination. It's bold, it's honest, and it's exactly how he works.
Roll sound, Toledo. Example, take 4, sound speed. I can take 4.
But here's the question nobody asks. What did Jarmusch steal from? What shaped the man who made poets out of bus drivers and turned the American West into a black and white fever dream? Most directors will tell you about the classics, the safe answers, the films everyone agrees are important. Jarmusch doesn't do that. He doesn't watch movies for plot twists or big moments. He watches for texture, for silence, for the space between the frames. He collects films the way some people collect vinyl records. Not as background noise, but as something that changes the air in the room. His favorite films aren't just things he admired from a distance. They're blueprints. They're conversations he's been having his entire career. They rewired how he sees the world, how he builds a scene, how he lets a moment breathe. These 7 films didn't teach him how to make movies. They taught him why, and once you see them, you'll understand where his slow burns, his drifters, and his strange poetry all come from. 7. Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, 1927. Before there were words, there was watching. Jim Jarmusch understands this better than most, and it all goes back to a silent film from 1927.
Happy we could make the thing. It was really very difficult to finance. It was very difficult to shoot a film.
F.W. Murnau's Sunrise isn't just an old cinema. It's pure cinema, no dialogue, no explanations. Just light, shadow, and 2 people trying to find their way back to each other. Jarmusch has said he returns to this film whenever he feels lost. It resets him. It reminds him what movies actually are. Sunrise tells a simple story. A man is tempted to kill his wife. He doesn't. They go to the city. They fall in love again. But Murnau doesn't need words to break your heart. He uses angles. He uses fog rolling across water. He uses the way morning light cuts through a window. Every frame is composed like a painting. Every shadow means something. Jarmusch watched this and realized that silence isn't empty. Silence is full. What did he take from Murnau? The courage to let images speak. The trust that audiences will feel what they need to feel without being told. Jarmusch's films are never loud. They never rush. They breathe. They wait. That patience, that geometry of light and stillness comes directly from Sunrise. Murnau handed him the foundation. Everything else Jarmusch built on top of it is just his own quiet rebellion. One silent film, a lifetime of influence. 6. Killer of Sheep, 1978. Jim Jarmusch saw Killer of Sheep at a small screening in the late 70s.
It was the most difficult film for me to make because I didn't have enough money. It's a period film. You had to shoot in a lot of...
It barely had distribution. Most people didn't know it existed, but it hit him like a freight train. Charles Burnett made this film for almost nothing. No studio, no stars, just a story about a black man working in a slaughterhouse in Watts, trying to keep his family together. It's not a protest film. It's not about trauma or struggle in the way Hollywood loves to package it. It's just life, real life, quiet, hard, and somehow still beautiful. What makes Killer of Sheep so powerful is what it doesn't do. It doesn't explain. It doesn't preach. Burnett just watches. A man stacks sheep carcasses. Kids play in empty lots. A couple slow dances in their living room to Earth, Wind and Fire. The camera stays close, patient, loving. Jarmusch saw this and understood something crucial. You don't need a big message to make art. You just need to see people clearly. Burnett showed him that poetry doesn't only live in museums or moonlit streets. It lives in cracked sidewalks and cluttered kitchens. It lives in the hands of people just trying to survive. Jarmusch took that lesson into every film he made. His outsiders are never tragic. They're never pitiable. They're just living. And that, he learned from Burnett, is enough. 5. Wings of Desire, 1987. Wim Wenders and Jim Jarmusch are kindred spirits. They met in the 80s and became friends almost immediately, both obsessed with cities.
I mean, I'm interested in all forms, all genres of film, but Western is not one of my foremost, interest.
Both in love with drifters and loners, both convinced that cinema should feel like poetry, not journalism.
Because I'm a friend. Compañero.
Wings of Desire is Wenders at his most delicate. It's about angels in Berlin who watch humans and listen to their thoughts. They can't touch anything. They can't taste coffee or feel rain. They just observe. And one of them falls in love with a trapeze artist and decides to become human. The film moves like a dream. Black and white shifts to color. The camera floats through libraries and subway stations. There's no rush, no plot pushing you forward. Just moments. A child on a rooftop. An old man remembering the war. Two people finding each other in a crowded circus tent. Jarmusch watched this and saw what he'd been trying to do all along. Cinema as a mood. Cinema as a feeling you can't quite name. What did he take from Wenders? The idea that cities aren't just locations. They're emotional landscapes. Berlin, Tokyo, Paterson, New Jersey. Jarmusch films them the way Wenders does, with patience, with love. Like he's an angel watching humans try to make sense of their small, strange lives. Wings of Desire didn't teach him technique. It confirmed his instincts. Sometimes the best thing a film can do is simply watch. 4. The Searchers, 1956. This one surprises people. Jim Jarmusch, the indie rebel, the king of black and white art films, naming a classic John Ford Western.
There are a lot of unconventional Westerns which were very inspiring to me.
It seems contradictory, but Jarmusch has never been afraid of contradiction. He's always said you can love punk rock and love old cowboy movies. You can reject Hollywood and still respect what it built. The Searchers is one of those films that gets under your skin. John Wayne plays a man searching for his kidnapped niece across the Texas desert. But he's not a hero. He's bitter, racist, obsessed. The film is beautiful and ugly at the same time. What Jarmusch took from Ford wasn't the story, it was the landscape. Ford shot Monument Valley like it was another character. Those massive red rocks, that endless sky. The desert becomes a place where men go to disappear, to run from themselves, to become myths. Jarmusch saw that and understood. The American West isn't just geography, it's an existential void, a place where outsiders go to find nothing and everything at once. Years later, Jarmusch made Dead Man, a black and white Western about a dying accountant wandering through a surreal frontier. It's Ford's desert filtered through poetry and madness. Jarmusch took the myth Ford built and filled it with drifters, mystics, and blood-soaked philosophy. Ford gave him the dessert. Jarmusch made it strange. One classical film, one unlikely influence, and proof that rebellion always has roots. 3. Breathless, 1960. Every young filmmaker has a moment when they realize the rules can be broken.
So I did that quite a lot, but that was really the most I knew about cinema.
For Jim Jarmusch, that moment was breathless. Jean-Luc Godard made this film in 1960, and it shattered everything people thought movies should be.
Allez quoi, je reste avec toi.
De toute façon, j'ai mal à la tête.
No smooth transitions, no careful setups, just jump cuts, handheld cameras, and Jean-Paul Belmondo walking through Paris like he owned the streets. The film doesn't care about continuity. It doesn't care about being polished. It just moves. Fast, loose, alive. Jarmusch saw this in film school and it changed everything. He realized cinema didn't have to be perfect. It could be rough. It could feel like jazz, improvised and dangerous. Goddard's characters don't follow arcs. They just exist, smoking cigarettes, talking about nothing, running from cops. There's no morals, no lesson, just style, attitude, and rhythm. That's what Jarmusch obsessed over. Not the plot, the way Belmondo moved, the way Goddard refused to behave. Breathless taught Jarmusch that you could make a film the way you'd make a poem or a song. Fragments, moments, energy over explanation. Every film he's made since borrows from Goddard's Casual Rebellion. The jump cuts in Stranger Than Paradise, the cool detachment, the sense that his characters are too hip to care about where the story's going. Godard handed him permission. Permission to be strange. Permission to trust rhythm over rules. One French film, a lifetime of influence, and proof that sometimes breaking things is the only way to make something new. 2. The Killing of a Chinese Bookie, 1976. John Cassavetes is the patron saint of independent filmmaking. He didn't wait for studios. He didn't ask for permission. He just made films his way, with his own money, his own rules, and his own raw, uncomfortable honesty.
Among these other films and being celebrated among a kind of diversity of different filmmakers and styles.
The Killing of a Chinese Bookie is pure Cassavetes. It's messy, it's long, it feels like it was made up on the spot. Ben Gazzara plays a strip club owner who gets in debt to the mob and has to kill someone to pay it off. But the film isn't really about the plot. It's about watching a man unravel in real time. Jarmusch saw this film and realized something crucial. You don't need Hollywood. You don't need big budgets or perfect scripts. You just need a camera, actors you trust, and something honest to say. Cassavetes filmed like he was documenting life, not directing it. His actors improvised. His scenes went long. His editing was rough on purpose. It wasn't polished, it was real. And that realness hit harder than anything coming out of the studio system. What did Jarmusch take from Cassavetes? Everything. The entire ethos of Stranger Than Paradise comes from this film. Shoot cheap, shoot honest. Let the imperfections stay. Rough edges aren't mistakes, they're style. They're true. Cassavetes handed Jarmusch the keys to a car with no brakes and told him to drive. He's been driving ever since. One scrappy, uncompromising film, and proof that independence isn't just a budget, it's a state of mind. 1. Tokyo Story, 1953. If there's one film that shaped Jim Jarmusch more than any other, it's this one.
When you're making a film, there are a lot of things you cannot control, and yet you're attempting to control all these things and create this fake reality in front of the camera.
Yasujiro Ozu's Tokyo Story is quiet. Almost nothing happens. An elderly couple travels from the countryside to visit their grown children in Tokyo. The children are busy. They don't have time. The parents feel like burdens. They go home. The mother dies. That's it. No dramatic speeches. No big confrontations. Just life, slow and sad and unbearably real. Jarmusch saw this film in his 20s and it destroyed him. Not because it was loud or shocking, but because it was so still. Ozu's camera barely moves. It sits low to the ground, at eye level, like it's kneeling. His characters don't explain their feelings. They just sit. They pour tea. They stare out the windows. And somehow, in all that silence, you feel everything. Ozu taught Jarmusch that cinema doesn't need to move to break your heart. It just needs to be watched. What makes Tokyo Story so powerful is what it trusts you to understand. That families drift apart. That time was cruel. Those small disappointments add up to something unbearable. Ozu films the mundane like it's sacred. A train ride, a conversation over breakfast, an empty hallway. Jarmusch took all of that into his own work. Patterson, Broken Flowers, films where nothing dramatic happens, but everything matters. Ozu showed him that you could make poetry out of everyday life. That stillness could be more powerful than action. that silence could say more than dialogue ever could. Jarmusch has spent his entire career chasing what Ozu captured in 1953. The beauty of the ordinary, the tragedy of time passing, the grace in just watching people live. One Japanese film, one master of patience, and the foundation for everything Jarmusch would ever make. This isn't just his favorite film, it's his North Star. Jim Jarmusch doesn't name favorites to show off. He names teachers. These 7 films didn't give him answers. They gave him permission. Permission to be slow, to be strange, to trust silence. He stole from all of them, but he stole like an artist, taking only what resonated, what fueled him. Nothing is original, he said, but everything, when filtered through his lens, becomes personal. Which of these films speaks to you? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more deep dives into the minds of legendary filmmakers.